Stemming from the 1920s, when silent movies were still filling theaters, city symphony came to be a popular, artistic film genre. Through a poetic and experimental approach, city symphony presents a portrait of daily life within a city. It is a broad genre that has taken many different shapes from filmmakers of Paris and Berlin to Buenos Aires. It can, and often does, include documentary elements as well as symphonic patterns of cutting and editing that try to entrap the city's character through its people as well as its infrastructure and architecture. The 1927 German film Berlin, Symphony of a Metropolis, directed by Walter Ruttmann, is one of the first films of the city symphony genre and is perhaps the most by-the-book example of it. Ruttmann forewent a typical narrative plot and adopted semi-documentary and experimental style through visual impressions of the city and an orchestral score. Today, we find elements of city symphony in films that fall into many other genres, such as our 2011 Argentinian rom-com Medianeras, or Sidewalls in English. Medianeras, the feature, is Argentine director Gustavo Taretto's extension of his 2005 short film of the same name. In both the short and the feature, a love story ensues with the city becoming the key hindrance and facilitator to the lonely protagonist's meeting. While the feature film exhibits the same plot and many of the same stylistic elements as the short, Taretto has stated that he wanted the feature to be more of a meditation on Buenos Aires through the eyes of two of the city's most affected inhabitants. Gustavo Taretto uses city symphony elements to portray his beloved city, Buenos Aires, and its cause and effect relationship with the protagonists Martín and Mariana of Medianeras. Through impressionistic images and expensive shots of the city and its eclectic architecture, Taretto invites the audience into the world of Martín and Mariana, as well as their antagonist, the city of Buenos Aires itself. Martín's and Mariana's neurotic and at times depressive behaviors come through in their voiceovers of these shots of the city. Their psyches are materialized in the kludge of Buenos Aires' architecture. The city forms its characters just as much as they form the city. His use of city symphony is perhaps more pronounced in his 2007 short Hoy no estoy, or I'm Not Here Today in English. Like the traditional city symphonies of past eras, Hoy no estoy has no dialogue and relies on a musical score to accompany shots of the city as the protagonist, El, nervously creeps about town. Taretto follows a symphonic pattern in his short, allowing the music to match cuts, edits, and images. This short film mimics the relationship between Martín and Mariana in that a man and a woman who both bear neurotic and anxious tendencies meet and romance follows. Here, however, our protagonists are unnamed, credited simply as El and Ella, or he and she. Like the story of Martín and Mariana in Medianeras, Hoy no estoy is about more than just the relationship between he and she. It is about their relationship with their city itself. The city functions as a means of uniting them, while also hindering them from seeking the confidence to wander about outside. Taretto's obsession with architecture appears in both Medianeras and in Hoy no estoy. His films are just as much about the characters as they are about the city in which they dwell. The infrastructure of Buenos Aires becomes a physical symbol of oppression to Martín, Mariana, El, and Ella, while also acting as a kind of fairy godmother to them. The characters merely try to overcome the craziness that the city suggests to them, while Buenos Aires, in all its beautiful architectural disarray, sit back and determine the characters' fates. The stark, modern, grayscale buildings in Hoy no estoy create a prison-like state for El as he escapes his shoebox apartment and enters the big city. In the end, however, the city's godmother-like qualities come to the fore when El and Ella are able to find love in one another despite their anxious tendencies, when they find nooks and hidden spaces to shield themselves from the hustle and bustle of Buenos Aires. With the exception of leading characters, Taretto portrays humans as pieces of the buildings they surround. Extras become pillars. If we were to view a scene from one of his films in a sketch with the human features erased or altered, their positions and general demeanor would mimic the buildings that surround them rather than the humans that they are. This is to say that when pushed into a big city, we all blend together to one grand image of humanity and development. Taretto capitalizes on this idea while emphasizing connectedness among people, relationally and physically.